Sahana vavatu, sahano bhunaktu, saha viryankaravavahai, tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Rupam Drishyam Lochanam Drik Tad Drishyam Driktu Manasam Drishyadi Vrittaya Sakshi Drigeva Natu Drishyate. Oh. Namaste everybody. So we are seeing towards the end of the verses, we will be completing this text. And after completing this text, I think next week we will do a summary. So you have an idea of the flow of the text as well, because it's important to see that very beautiful text. And we had left it at a very famous verse, Asti Bhati Priyam. So we can chant that verse also, and we will look over it again. Asti Bhati Priyam Rupam Nama Chetyam Shapanchakam Adyatrayam Brahma Rupam Jagat Rupam Tato Dvayam. So we had seen in this verse, the author had divided the Jagat into two, as if two things meaning Brahma Rupam, the nature of consciousness. Three things belong to the nature of consciousness and two things belong to the nature of the world. So what is the nature of consciousness? The existence. It is how I respond to the external world. I should understand it in that way. It's my response to the external world. So existence, shining, bhati, it shines. Everything in this world exists. It shines. And it's priyam. It is in the form of love. It pleases. It has the ability to please. It has the capacity to please. Of course, the last part is what everybody has difficulty in understanding. We will examine it a bit more to assimilate what is being said here. So, the pleasure that is invoked through anything that we experience in life, through any objects, that is our own pleasure. That is what the author wants to say. It is your pleased self that comes up. Whenever you're in a moment of happiness, when you feel joy, what is it? It is the pleased self that rises. It is the pleased self that comes up. So in our lives, there is a mix-up of two things. This is what the whole text is saying. There's a mix-up of subject and object. We keep confusing the Drik and the Drishya, and this is where we make the mistake. We keep making the same mistake again and again. Drik becomes Drishya, and then I suffer the consequences of everything I see, everything I perceive in life. I take all the attributes of those things onto me. So this is the mix-up, main mix-up in life. In Drig-Drishya Viveka, we need to recognize an object as an object, subject as the subject. The subject here is Atma. The subject here is the self. Self is being discussed. How we experience and interact with the world and its true reality is addressed in this verse. That's why it's very important. What is the true reality of what is the true reality of this world and how do I interact with it? So it's trying to understand the truth of this universe. The author divides everything into 5 components for understanding everything. Everything becomes, and we saw, using a mundane example again, let us take a mundane example. What is a mundane example? Something that we experience daily on a day-to-day basis. We saw that when I see something outside, when I look at an object outside, am I really perceiving only the object? No, I am not. I am perceiving the object along with the light. The object only comes to light because of light. Light lends existence to the object. Light brings that object to light. In the same way, on the spiritual level, on that Brahman level, everything here is pervaded by consciousness. That is what our scriptures say. And everything being pervaded by consciousness, everything comes to light. It comes to light because of consciousness. All objects come to light because of consciousness. Everything comes to light because of consciousness alone. So everything, actually, in fact, our whole life is experienced with consciousness. But we miss consciousness. We miss the main source of our living. We miss the main source of our being alive on this planet. Just as we miss the light when we look outside, we miss the light. We get involved in the objects externally and we miss to see the light. It is because of the light the objects come into my attention. In the same way, because of consciousness alone, all this Jagat shines for me as well. So here he says, Asti Bhati Priyam. What is my experience of these objects in the world? What is my experience of this world in general? Everything in this world, it bhati. First of all, we have to say bhati. It shines. It shines where? It shines here in my intellect. It shines in my mind. It shines as a thought form. The thought form of an object comes, it forms in my mind. And I say, this object is. I say, this object is. This object exists. Asti. So when I say object bhati, object asti. The object is. And why do I say it exists? I know it because it is an object of my awareness. It bhatis in my head. I know it is an object of my awareness. So existence and awareness we have no problem with. They go together. Asti and bhati go together. Existence and awareness go together. But the third aspect is what we have problems with. The third aspect is priyam. The object pleases me. The object makes me happy. This is, of course, I don't have problem with objects that do make me happy. Very few objects in this world make me happy, but there are objects that make me happy. Some people make me happy, and then we call that priyam. I can understand priyam when I know some people make me happy. My car makes me happy. I can understand priyam, that the car has priyam and makes me happy. I can even say Vedānta makes me happy. So priyam, Vedānta has priyatvam. So everything has a potential of priyatvam is what is being said here, because that is the nature of Brahman. That is the nature of consciousness. Whole Jagat has the potential to please me. And this is where we have the problem, because the whole Jagat does not please me. Most of the Jagat I don't find pleasing at all, or that's what I say. But we have to understand, what is this pleasure? What is this love? What is this happiness, this joy I feel? So whatever invokes the pleased self, whatever I love, is the pleased self, because it is invoked in me. What I really am committed to is my own pleased self. It is not I'm committed to the object outside. My commitment is to my happiness. My commitment is to my joy. I want to feel joy. I want to feel happiness. My commitment is to that. So any object outside, we saw also any object that triggers a certain thought in my mind, that is able to reflect that joy for me, becomes a source of potential of joy for me. So this is, again, we'll examine it a bit more, but this is what first of all, it begins, this verse, saying that the whole Jagat is pervaded by Asti Bhati Priyam, Sat Chit Ananda, existence, consciousness, Ananda, limitless joy, pervaded with that. And what is the rest part of the Jagat? The rest of the Jagat is Rupam and Nama. The form and name is the rest of the Jagat. Of course, all the Rupa Namas contain Asti Bhati Priyam. So they keep changing. He said, Vaichitriya Chitri Kritam. Every name and form in this Jagat keeps changing all the time. We know that. Nothing ever stays the same. Sometimes you may have had the experience, especially now, when you go back to India, you go back to your hometowns or your cities. You'll see, as you remembered it maybe a couple of years back, now after 2 years, you'll see suddenly there's a big change. People living there will not notice the change, but you go back saying, my God, that store was not there last time I came. This person was not living next door to us. Everything changes like that in life. So Nama Rupa is this everything that changes. The changing is Nama Rupa, that belongs to the world. The changeless is what? Asti Bhati Priyam. That is the same. In every Nama Rupa, that Asti Bhati Priyam stays the same. So this Nama Rupas, it doesn't matter the names and forms, whether they're animals, inanimate or animate objects, they are always Nama Rupas. They remain separate. They remain varied, and they remain changing. So this is this is Nama Rupa. They remain separate, they remain varied, and they remain changing all the times. All names, forms, and functions are different. Everything in the Jagat. We don't have any argument with that. That is a fact. We face everything in the Jagat. We cannot say, oh, everything is one on that level. If you say that everything, there's only oneness, you and I are one, we have to be very careful, because the person you're telling that to, may be not feeling oneness with you. So they may not have a, agreement with that immediately. So it is on a different, you see, when we talk in the scriptures, it is always speaking from two standpoints. One is the reality, the ultimate reality standpoint, where there is nothing but Brahman, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. There's only one Brahman, only one consciousness. And the other standpoint is what? The varieties that we see of names and forms. So there's two standpoints I look at the world. In fact, there's not two standpoints. There's only one standpoint. But Vedanta study helps me shift my standpoint and see the world in a different light. That's what happens after many, many years of study. You keep listening. Your whole perception of the world and people and situations, everything shifts slowly, slowly. So Adyatrayam Brahma Rupam. These are the what shines is what is what shines, and what is and what shines is Ananda, limitless joy. One Brahman which is self-shining, self-revealing, limitless joy. Jagat Rupam Tato Dvayam. So what is the problem here? We saw last time. There is an issue that we'll all have. What is that? Apriyam. So many things I don't like in this world. Also so many things I'm indifferent to. How do we explain this dislike? Is it in the object? The question is that apriyam in the object, or where is it then? What triggers the apriyam? If the Shastra says nothing as apriyam, Shastra itself says everything is asti bhati priyam, everything is lovable. Everything is lovable. Then, where is this apriyam coming from? That is the question. Why don't I like bitter gourd? Why don't I like Karela? Why don't I like so many things in this world? I don't like dogs. I don't like scorpions. I don't like spiders. So many dislikes. All these objects seem to trigger unpleasant experience for me in life. I cannot accept that they can be priyam. But closer examination, let us closely examine our experience in life, because life is the greatest teacher. Life experience is the greatest teacher. What is it that really happens when I love something? When I say I love something, it is a feeling that I feel. It is a joy that arises in me. And what I really love is that joyful feeling. It is not the object outside. What I really love is that we call it the pleased self. When the pleased self shines, that is Ananda manifesting in you. That Ananda, which is your Swarupa, many times it's translated in the text as bliss, but we don't understand really what bliss is. Bliss is something we have not really experienced in our life, so it's very difficult. That's why we always work towards bliss. Here, we're not talking about something bliss, we're talking about an experience you already have. It is that Ananda you love. That is limitless joy. But what we are talking about is that Ananda, which is not dependent on the thoughts. The experience I have in my life at the moment, the way I am, is dependent on my thoughts. If I'm not in the mood, I cannot experience Ananda. If my thought is depressed, I cannot experience Ananda. So it is dependent Ananda. It is dependent on my thoughts. So this Ananda is what I really love. That is first rule. It is the Ananda I really love. So certain things and people are not pleasing to me in my life. They're apriyam. They make me unhappy. I say, you make me unhappy. Whenever I have an argument with somebody, it's always like that. You make me sad. You make me unhappy. You're at fault. What is it? They are not an object. When I say somebody is making me unhappy, what I'm saying is that you are not an object of my love. I only love what invokes the pleased self. I only like what invokes the pleased me. So, my dislike for you is because you don't invoke the pleased me. Then who is it you really love? It is not that person. It is you. You love yourself. You love that feeling of, again, it is your pleased self you love, that Ananda. So, Asti Bhati is true for all objects. Priyam is also true. Priyam is also true, but we have to understand how the Priyam becomes true. So, my experience of life is how I experience life in three ways. Part of this world gives me Priyam. Very small part, I feel Priyam. It makes me happy, it makes me joyful. Another big section, huge section gives me indifference. I'm not bothered about it. Whether it is this way or that way, I'm not bothered. That is indifference. I'm not bothered. And there is a third part of the Jagat, third part of the world. What is that? Third part of the world is apriyam. I dislike. There could be many things. Some people have very big dislike lists. Some people have less dislike lists, more like lists. That depends on the person to person. But there are parts for everybody that give me apriyam. But how do we understand this? The understanding is that there cannot be different Brahmans. There cannot be Asti Bhati Priyam, Asti Bhati Indifferent, Asti Bhati Apriyam. There's no three different types of Brahman because Brahman consciousness is only one and the same. So it is actually my experience. For different people, different things become objects of like, dislike and indifference. And we cannot say we love every object. So this is the problem. We cannot say that. So we think there must be different consciousnesses and all these different types of consciousnesses invoke different feelings in me. No, that is not right. It is only one consciousness, that is Satchitananda, pure existence consciousness, bliss. And that bliss, that does not change. But I don't love the object because the Ananda is not there in me. The pleased self is Atma Swarupa, my true nature. I reject anything that doesn't bring out my true nature. You can look at your own experience in life. Amazing how the Rishi has analyzed this in our experience. Anything I reject in life, what is it? It doesn't make me manifest my Ananda Swarupa, my Atma Swarupa. So the truth is what? If my happiness varies in life, if it is degree to degree, like Monday I'm happy, Tuesday I'm not happy, Wednesday I'm a bit happy, Thursday I'm really depressed, Friday I'm not happy at all. If my happiness is fluctuating like this, one day like this, not even a day, every hour our happiness fluctuates. If it fluctuates like this, then it is not the real joy. It is not the real, it is lesha. It is a lesha, which means it is a manifestation of your true nature, an experience of your true nature you have for a brief amount of time, brief period of time. It is called Vishaya Ananda. We saw that. An Ananda dependent on your thoughts and dependent on your moods. If your happiness, whereas what we discuss here is that happiness, which is not fluctuating in degrees, there is a happiness. It is a promise that is given in our scriptures. This is the ultimate discovery of truth. When we call, what we call self-realization, self-discovery is nothing but this. The ultimate discovery is what? There is a happiness that is independent of mind. The Swarupa of Atma, independent of mind. And how does this happiness come about? That is when mind is seen as false entity. The ahankara, that I notion that I take myself to be, is seen as a false entity, imposter in disguise. That takes tremendous, again, assimilation of knowledge for that actual reality to set in. But until then, let's examine our experience of happiness. We saw this. The three types of vrittis, the thought forms that our scriptures discuss, which are responsible for our fluctuating moods and our fluctuations in happiness. So when sattva, the quality of sattva becomes predominant in the mind, a shanta vritti, the peaceful shanta vritti is the vritti of peace. What happens? I pick up sukham. I pick up joy when this sattva quality manifests. Because when sattva is in the mind, how is the mind? It is like, if you imagine, sometimes I remember once I was traveling in US, in Yellowstone, it's a beautiful national park. In fact, America has so much natural beauty. People don't concentrate on that, but Bhagwan has blessed that country with so much nature, so much beauty. But I always remember that experience, that there were some mountains and there was this lake, and we did not know which was the reflection and which was the mountain. It was so rippleless, so pure, so clear, just like a mirror reflecting the mountain. One could not notice what is the reflection, which is the real mountain. Sattva quality is just like that. Sattva has the quality of reflectiveness. It can reflect anything that is put in front of it to pure, the capacity, fullest capacity of reflection. If that water was waves, if it had waves, it had ripples and everything, the mountains would not be seen clearly like that. So it's exactly like how Atma Swarupa shines. In the Shanta Vritti, the thought form, when mind is peaceful, when it is calm, Atma Swarupa, your true nature is able to reflect, shine. And that shining, what happens? When it shines, you have the experience of Ananda, you have the experience of joy, you have the experience independent of anything else. That is the beauty of it. But the problem is, you cannot sustain that vritti. That is the whole problem in life. Because every vritti has the nature of what? Of changing. The mind's nature is to change. The description, if you remember Tattva Bodha, the actual definition of mind is sankalpa vikalpatmakam manaha, that which changes constantly. So if your mind does not change, you are in trouble. You are actually not normal. The mind, if it jumps around here and there, you are very normal. That is everybody's mind. But here, we don't want the mind to jump from this. What do? We try and hang on to it. We try whole life, the Shanta Vritti should be there. I want this. I think by fulfilling this desire, that Shanta Vritti will be there. Fulfilling another desire, Shanta Vritti will be there. My whole commitment again is to what? To having that Shanta Vritti arise, and for me to experience that feeling of Ananda, the pleased self. When that pleased self rises, I am committed to that pleased self. I love myself. So very, very clearly, what is it I really love? He says you love yourself alone. You don't love anything else. It is your own self, your own happiness you love. So Atma shines through that Shanta Vritti, and peace and joy reflect in your life. But it's transitory, and the problem is, as more and more I try and work for it, the less and less it comes to me. The more and more I try and work for it, the more and more that vritti evades me. It keeps running off. It keeps going. And very brief moments in life, I'm able to pick up that same joy. I keep remembering those moments of joy, and I want it back. I want to feel that joy again, but I cannot find constantly objects that give me that joy, or situations that give me that joy, or that people that give me joy, because everything is changing. So this is number one fact. The Ananda that we experience in life is very brief. It is very fleeting. It is transitory. And that's why we cannot really call it Ananda. It is just called pleasure. We have to differentiate between pleasure and happiness. Pleasures are fleeting. Everybody is after pleasure. We do. Sensory pleasure, aesthetic pleasure, intellectual pleasure. So many different types of pleasures are there. Some people may not go for sensory pleasures, but they find, going to a museum, looking at all the artifacts, reading all that, they find what? Intellectual pleasure in that. Other people who put them in a museum, they'll run off. They can't even spend 5 minutes looking at anything. So everybody experiences different levels of pleasure, and different things bring that pleasureful moment for everybody. But The one thing that is same in all human beings is what? It is the Shanta Vritti that shines, that gives the pleasure. It doesn't matter what makes the Shanta Vritti arise, it is the Shanta Vritti that gives the pleasure. So Sattva Guna Pradhana Shanta Vritti is the thought of happiness, contemplation, discrimination, knowledge, compassion, love. All these qualities come when Shanta Vritti is predominant. But there is another type of thought form we saw that often we have the tendency of that arising. We don't know what order governs our thoughts. Suddenly that Ghora Vritti comes into prominence. And that Vritti is, I cannot sit still for a minute. I have to keep doing something or other all the time. If I sit still with myself for 5 minutes, I'm in trouble. I cannot. I feel, no, I'm going to die if I sit with myself. So I keep going out. I keep doing something, keep myself occupied. What? It is Rajas. It is born of the Rajas quality. And it is going to keep the mind constantly disturbed. So now the lake, do you remember that lake analogy? The peaceful lake that was able to reflect the mountains perfectly now becomes agitated. It is all waves, ripples in it. The mountains cannot reflect. Then what happens? There's all, distorted images, distorted reflections. So Ghora Vritti drags me away from myself. It is my own Vritti in my own mind. It drags me away from my Swarupa. It drags me away from Atma Swarupa. But what do? I superimpose the Ghora Vritti. This is exactly what we call transference. I transfer the Ghora Vritti, the experience of Ghora Vritti, onto the external world. I blame my boss for giving me extra work. I blame my family for putting me to cook every day in the kitchen. Everything is put outside. I'm blaming everything external because Ghora Vritti has now come and it doesn't let me, it inhibits my expression of myself, the consciousness. So Ghora Vritti stops me from experiencing myself. Again, I transfer that Ghora Vritti experience onto everything external, blaming the external world for that, for my lack of peace. And the final Vritti, again, which is not we cannot blame the external world, is Tamasi Vritti. It is from my own self that this, the people with Tamasi Vritti, they will blame their own self, which is again another trap, which is one of, ignorance, the indifference, depression, sadness, all of this. People who are in this type of mood, this type of vritti comes, you cannot experience joy at all. It is totally opposite. Because that vritti is like a curtain, that very thick curtain that covers that light from shining in your room, the room of your mind. Thick curtain covers that vritti, tamas vritti. And what happens? It's self-absorption. You're absorbed in the self. You have the power. You have the power to open the curtain. You can do it. But you're absorbed in the self. You don't know how to get out of it. This is that tamasi vritti that comes sometimes. Then there is absolutely what happens. The water. You can't even see the water. The water is totally black, dark. It is all moving around. And we cannot see any reflection in that. So tamasi vritti also denies me of my happiness. And tamasi vritti also can lead me to transfer the blame onto externals. Because we will say, especially, if we go for some kind of therapy or, go to a psychologist or something like that, they'll say, oh no, I'm not saying everybody says that, but generally they'll say something from your childhood, something from this happened, this must have happened, and this and that and everything. And it will all be, going back to some issue. Whereas, yes, it may be, the causes may be something like that, the upbringing may be something to do with nurture and nature, but the main reason is that this tamasi vritti is there. It arises according to an order. We don't know why. It is prarabdha. We have to explain. All the vrittis in our mind that arise at different times in our mind is only our karma. Our karma we have to face. But we can change our karma by understanding. If we understand this is what's happening, we can shift our vrittis. You can change your vrittis. You can become objective to your vrittis. Your mind cannot take you for a ride. Your mind is actually your slave, not your master. You have to learn to make the mind your slave and not your master. So Ananda is a possibility. Ananda is something you already know. It is not something outside your experience in life. You eating a jalebi, I said, eating anything nice, that can create ananda. Eating good food creates ananda. These are all experiential ananda, pleasures. But my love, when I love something in life, it is myself being transferred onto the object, person or situation. It is myself. When I feel that love and I look at the object and I think, what immediately the mind thinks, you are the cause of my joy. You are the cause of my happiness for me. As soon as I make something the cause of my joy and my happiness, what happens? I'm in trouble, because next moment that object may not be a cause for joy and happiness for me. And what do? Dump it. Bye-bye, tata. Soon as it stops being a cause of joy for me, I want to get rid of it. That is what everybody does. It is very natural. Again, what does it show? That is what I want you to all understand. What does it show? My commitment is to myself. My commitment is to my ananda. It is not for the others' ananda. And that is why when we say, especially when, relationships and everything with the breakup, I did this for you. I did all this for you. I went out my way to, get this for you. Did this, all that. And look at what you did to me. All of these things. There's accusations constantly when anything is not going well. What happens? It is your transference onto that person. It is not that person. You didn't, did you? The question should be, did I really do it for that person? We have to very, very honestly ask ourselves, did we do anything for the other one, really? What I did, when I did that action and I felt I'm doing it for you, what did I feel? That should be the thing. What did I feel when I did that? I felt happy. So my commitment again is what? To my happiness. It is not the other's happiness, really. I felt happy doing something for somebody else. It is my happiness again. Everything in life is like that. Everything is commitment only for my happiness. So people say, I'm so unselfish. I've given my life in selfless service. I've done everything. There's no such thing as selfless service. Everything's for self. Even selfless service is for self. You may do things. Maybe you find joy by service. You find joy by feeding others. You find joy in giving to others. That's a great type of joy. That's a growth spiritually as well, because you find joy out of yourself and out of your circle. But even that joy, what happens? That joy is for your own self. So it is not for anybody else. Again, it is for one's own self. So this is a very, very beautiful verse to understand that if the object invokes the pleased me, I love it. If the object invokes the displeased me, I don't like it at all. Then what do I really love then? He asks the question. It is Atmanastu Kamaya Sarvam Priyam Bhavati. What I really love is the pleased self. I love myself. Really, my commitment is to my own self. I love myself. Love is there only for myself alone, for the pleased self. Objects that invoke the pleased self, but love is given there. And when object doesn't invoke the pleased self, love is kept away from there again, because commitment is to the pleased self. So nobody, we can say, nobody or nothing outside has a priyam. Nothing outside. The apriyam is my own attitude towards things in life. It is my own way of viewing things in life. What makes me unhappy is I have to understand is my own vritti, the gora vritti or tamasi vritti that clouds the shanta vritti and inhibits the expression of ananda swarupa, atma swarupa. So it is not the object outside. It is my likes and dislikes. Again, it comes back to what is inside me. The likes and dislikes in me, they are the ones that cause that reaction to the world outside. When I love something, it captures my attention. I'm fully focused on it. I love it and it captures my attention. That creates ananda, like beauty, something tasty, anything that captures my attention. And again, it is for my own self. Parama Prema Swarupa, that ananda is called Parama Prema Swarupa, which is the highest form of love, embodiment of love and happiness. Ananta, limitlessness. It's a feeling of limitlessness. Exactly how I feel when I fulfill a desire. You watch, when you fulfill a desire, you watch now, observe your mind. How is it I feel when I fulfill a desire? There is no seeking me. There's no wanting me. There's no lack. There's no lack in me. So when I fulfill the desire, what do I experience? Fullness. For a moment, brief moment, I experience fullness, completeness, joy. That is again my Swarupa I experience, uninhibited expression of consciousness. So this is what is meant by Asti Bhati Priyam. Everything is Asti Bhati Priyam, but the Priyam of the objects is covered by my thought forms, other thought forms. That it doesn't mean that object does not have Priyatvam. Every object has the ability to invoke Priyam, but it does not. For some objects do not invoke for some people, some objects invoke for other people. So not knowing that I am Ananda, I experience the world, I go through life, how? Experiencing the world of people, objects and situations, and being hurt and being affected by people outside, thinking that, with the expectations for the others to give me happiness, for constantly expecting the world to give me the joy that I think they should give me, I keep going through ups and downs in life. But in fact, if I understand this one verse in life, it's enough. I will never expect anything from external for my own happiness. Everything is within. Everything is in me. I will understand that. So Priyatvam is in me. I have the ability to tap into that Priyatvam, but I have to learn to tap. That is what the teachings give you, that equipment to tap into that Priyatvam. So love is there for in everything in the world. There is love. Asti, there is existence. It shines, and there is love for everything in the world. So this is the understanding of apriyam, why things, we feel apriyam to me. It is not the objects that change. It is the attitude in my mind that keeps changing. Even objects of indifference that I'm not bothered about. What is that commitment to? It is again commitment to my happiness. I'm not bothered about certain objects because they don't trigger the happiness in me. If you think about it, somebody I'm traveling on the bus with, I couldn't care. Somebody I'm sitting next to, I don't know that person. I don't care about them. Why? Because they don't trigger happy me. So you're not caring about people is also because the happy me is not triggered. So we call it indifference. You just let things be. It is only when you find the displeasure and pleasure in life which really affects us. So how to be pleased with oneself? That is the question. We stop projecting on external or stop projecting on people that they are responsible for sorrow or happiness. It is my pleased self alone, and nothing is giving me that. It is with me all along. The experiences of objects, people and situations are all divided in my life into, pleasing, non-pleasing and indifferent. But that is where I have to learn to start seeing that everything can give me love, everything can give me pleasure, and everything I can tap into if I just go beyond the name and form. Name and form is only external, it changes, but everything has Asti Bhati Priyam. And Asti Bhati Priyam that Priyam will be recognized. When I recognize myself as Priyam, the source of all Priyam, then I won't need to look for Priyam outside. So my commitment is to Ananda, my commitment is to myself, and that is what I want in life. Everything I want in life is that. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukhabhat Bhavet, Asato Ma Satgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.